Hi everyone, welcome to Skill Ninja and welcome to Confab with Mehak. I hope all of you have been doing great and all of you have been doing something for yourself. Every time I start this Confab, I'm always worried that is there something that you did for yourself? Because as you know, Skill Ninja aims at women recognizing their own talents, identifying them, and also pursuing their interests. So my main concern is always that whether you did something for yourself, did something progressive, productive, whatever you like. So I hope all of you have been enjoying the confabs because recently we've been talking a lot about mental health. And since it is a very pressing matter in these times, I would say that the more we talk about it, the better. Because there are so many things that we hear these days over the news, over the internet, and so many other, platforms where we get to know that we are still not stressing on mental health as much as we should. So today again I bring to you another guest speaker who is Ms Ishmeet Kaur, and besides being a psychologist, she is also an handwriting analyst. So I don't know if you know what a handwriting analyst is, because today I'm going to get from her today understand that what exactly a handwriting analyst is and what they exactly do. So today we bring to you this very special guest speaker who will not only enlighten you about the daily challenges, how to overcome them, how to understand them, how to acknowledge the fact that there's something that's bothering you, and also throw some light about what an handwriting analyst is. So let's quickly call upon Ms Ishmeet Kaur. She is a very young psychologist and she's here. Let me quickly call her upon. No wasting any more time. So she can tell you all about mental health, how to deal with that, what do you, what to expect, because mental health is still a taboo. Welcome to Linda.
Hello, hello. Thank you.
Hi Ishmeet, I welcome you on behalf of Linda. Welcome to Confab. So I hope today you look forward to enlighten all our listeners here about what to expect and what not to expect. So, starting with mental health itself, why don't you tell what exactly is mental health and why it's a matter of concern?
Can I'll just reiterate what you said because I want to make sure that's what you asked because of the audio issue. Is that what mental health is and why does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to know what exactly is mental health and why such a thing matters.
Okay, yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think even though now we are in a time where we are talking about mental health, we still don't exactly understand what mental health is. We understand there is physical health, जब हमें जुकाम होता है या बुखार होता है, but we understand there's mental health, but what is it exactly? And to put it uh, सीधे तरीके से, so all of us understand in layman language, it is what is going on in your brain and with your nervous system, right? So it is physically connected, but that's the thing. Mental health and physical health are interdependent. So everything that you are feeling, everything that you are thinking, and how all of it is coming through in your behavior, in your actions, is what mental health is. And if we if we will answer the question of does physical health matter, we will be able to answer whether or not mental health matters because they are interdependent, they are linked pretty straightforwardly.
That's uh, whether physical health is what I think everybody would agree. In fact, we go for, it was right that every 6 months we have got a full body checkup so that to sure that we are functioning well and everything's going well. But nobody ever talks about ensuring whether your mental health is okay or not. So also it's a very big taboo. People do not like to discuss because probably mental health is not seen as something that makes you uncomfortable, hampers your daily life, but more of it is seen as something that's wrong with your brain and you're not proper to function. So, of course, you're not proper to function, but not in a way that people traditionally, conventionally believe. Because it can be more than that. Just staying quiet, not being social, not being able to do your daily chores, not being able to talk to people, go out in company. There are so many indicators of it. Why don't you tell us first that what are the indicators of ill mental health? Because that's something we need to identify. So let's learn that what exactly are the indicators when you must understand and acknowledge that there's something wrong going with you.
Right. So, I think number one, why we are so hesitant of acknowledging mental health is because we have associated with, acha ye to, I mean, when we speak of, acha, go see a mental health professional, you're like, hum pagal thodi hai. So this negative connotation that we have attached is where the problem begins. Because mental health sabki hai. Everybody has a mental health. And if that is not balanced, it means you just need to acknowledge mental health issues and concerns. How these show up in your life is very subjective to everyone's experiences, but there will be a difference of intensity of how you are experiencing it, and आपके कितने resources हैं of being able to tackle with them, that those will define when you should actually reach out for help. Of course, there are very straightforward stressors that we're able to see, and there are a lot of different aspects also that affect our mental health. I mean, whether it is showing the issues are showing up as problems in your relationships, whether these are showing up as problems in your work productivity and consistency, whether it is showing up in your old faulty behavioral patterns, कि आप कुछ ऐसी चीजों में indulge कर रहे हो जो आपको ही affect कर रही हैं, and then of course it has a effect on other things related to you as well. I mean, if your behavior is affected, your relationships, your work, your friends, everything will be impacted eventually. Look out for things or your actions that have changed. Look out for how you are thinking. Is it more negative? Is it positive? Is it realistic? Or is it very idealistic? And there's also, I think it's a need to address it here. हम लोग, when all of us consume a lot of content, like, okay, there is mental health and I need to stay positive and I need to be motivated, in those cases, we might also indulge in toxic positivity. We'll say, oh no, everything's well, when actually we need to sit down and address the problems and see कि अच्छा कहाँ problem है. So don't go to either extremes. Try to balance it in between. So there are different types of manifestations of problems, and it's varied. Just look for inconsistencies and when you are not able to function in your daily life. किसी भी चीज में. So when there is a problem in your daily life की functioning is when you will need to address the concern that is happening.
Right. That's a very new thing that you mentioned to us, productivity. So be- So if you're just trying to do too many things at a time and you just think because you're being productive and it's good, even if you're exhausting yourself, even if you're overworking yourself, stressing yourself, so that's toxic productivity. So we must identify that this is something we also need to balance. So yes, Ishmeet, I would say that with this, with these changing times, there are so many things that women face each day with this multitasking that they're doing. I think there is some kind of confusion as to how much they should do and how much they should be doing because being a multitasker, they want to pick up a lot of things, they want to work, they're dealing with kids, they're dealing with family, they're dealing with house chores. Some women do it almost very effortlessly and without complaining, but others might feel they're falling short. They might feel that they're not doing enough because the other one can do, why cannot I do? So they're grueling themselves in this, this trend, or I would say this rat race where they want to compete with whatever others are doing. But of course, there is a limit to everything, and we must understand that we all are not same. Our productivity is not the same. Our capacities are different. Plus, their environment might be very supportive, their children might be very easy, so there can always be a difference in situation also. So don't you think, with all the pressure on women these days to do so much, because there's this new thing that now with them identifying their own self, with acknowledging their own personalities, they want to do something for themselves, but there is no relief in the conventional pattern that they've been living. So this they've been raised uh, in a way, conditioned in a way that all of the house chores are their responsibility. Everything related to the kids is their responsibility. But then this new role of establishing your own self, doing something for your own self, I think the clash between the two is becoming too much. So how would you say that we deal with this? I mean, well, of course, not many can do both the things together, and it is impacting the mental health, and we refuse to acknowledge it. So, how do you think we must do it? Should we stop doing all of it together, or should we identify, do something like that? Because we've been told that doing something for yourself is going to, you know, um, provide gratification to you and provide growth to you and stabilize you. But I feel personally it's putting too much pressure, because there's this this pressure to prove yourself in the work field and in the house and everywhere. So what do you think we should be doing?
I think a little bit of my personal opinion would slip in this answer, but I also feel it's important to be heard. The pressure that is coming through is also because we are in an age of women empowerment where all of us are wanting to do everything, and also even though biologically women are more equipped to be multitaskers, so of course women are more efficient as multitaskers who are looking at the household chores as well as their work places. They are more efficient than men in doing so. However, as you mentioned, there are a lot of factors affecting women. One thing that binds us is that we are women and we are facing some common issues, right? Gender based in the society. But there are also, as you mentioned, different things. So we call this individual differences, which is the differences in your own personalities, which means you have your own set of traits that differentiate you from others, right? So those plus your economic status, what monetary situation you are in, what financial situation you are in, how privileged are you on the political front, on the gender front, or as you said, the social support from family and friends. So all of these things make a difference. All of these things are your resources, which will help you tackle daily stressors and all of these stressors. Uh, so of course, I feel it is always a wise decision to consider these factors before moving forward in life in any sphere, right? Social support, of course, is a very, very important factor considering because you will need something to fall back to, right? So having that in mind, and of course, how emotionally, the emotional resources you have, whether you're a very hard-headed person who's like, okay, I have this goal and I will reach it, great. But if you know who can break down easily, which is okay, don't bash yourself for it because it is your characteristic. So, yeah, you need to evaluate your emotional resources. Are you emotionally prepared for the pressures that you will be facing or not? And if you are someone who feels that I don't want to indulge in both work and home, you should not feel pressured by the people around you who are managing both. You should do just one and focus on just one because that's your priority. That's what's keeping your health well. And there's nothing bad in not following the social norms, right? If we look at it, somehow this has become the social norm now that you are always managing both. But it's not, I mean, you shouldn't feel pressured to do that. It's okay to still hold the old values and just take care of the home, or even for that sake, just take care of work and divide things with your partner or your family members at home.
Right. So very rightly said that there's nobody you have to prove to someone, and if there's competition going on, there's nothing. You do not have to achieve certain standard just because you think others are doing it. It's about your own self, whatever you're comfortable in. In your niche, do not try overstepping because that might only result in overburdening your mental health. So it's only about what you find yourself comfortable and easily, doing things around. With all that being said and done, that how to identify and how to acknowledge all of this, I want to know more about acknowledging, because I think it's still a taboo. And if somebody someday told me that, although this is very rare and it wouldn't happen, somebody coming up to me and telling me, I don't think your mental health is fine, yeah, but of course very near and dear ones might ask you to see a therapist or something, I think the usual reaction would be, oh, come on, I don't need a therapist. Oh, come on, I'm fine. Yeah, that's how we react. So, how do you think we must acknowledge? And if somebody is pointing at all, um, do you think we must think over it? And what should we do initially to take that step towards acknowledging our own mental health?
So acknowledging and knowing how to acknowledge is a thing of practice and comes with time and will take effort on a personal front. Now, but what also helps in acknowledging mental health issues is when you're surrounded by people or people who support you acknowledging your mental health. How about having workplaces that acknowledge or provide mental health breaks to their employees? Would that not encourage you to do so too? Or schools understanding that children not being able to submit assignments is not just about their procrastination or their laziness or their irresponsibility, but trying to understand that there might be other factors affecting. So, for children, of course, teachers and parents would play a very strong role. But as adults, having that space, having that environment, or creating that environment if you don't have it for yourself will help you acknowledge your mental health better. I really suggest everyone, जैसे हम कहते हैं कि everyone needs me time. What is that me time about? Is sitting down and evaluating how you are feeling, what are you experiencing? Because sometimes we're always in such a rush, as I think most of us who are here are women. So we're always multitasking, right? So we're always occupied with something or the other. We're preoccupied with thoughts that don't really need our attention at that point, too. So taking time to slow down and see how we are feeling, what we are experiencing. Say you had a difficult encounter, a confrontation in a day, but you will not go back to it and think about it because you're so busy all the time. So taking that moment, realizing, okay, I had this social interaction with XYZ person, and this is how I felt. How was my reaction? Am I feeling weird because of that? Or am I feeling so and so emotions because of the work stress that I have? Or is it because I'm unable to balance so and so dynamic with this person? So just being able to identify these things will help you even subconsciously understand what my mental health is and what's the position of it and what steps do I need to take to improve it or balance it.
Right. So that was very insightful, that how you must acknowledge and how you must take this very first step towards, treating your mental health. So, Ishmeet, why don't you move forward and tell us that after you acknowledge, the first step is seeing a therapist, a specialist of mental health. But people are usually scared to see a therapist because I don't know, and that's the only kind of, I would say, doctor who wouldn't treat you with needles at all if you're afraid of them. But still, people are mostly afraid of therapists. I don't know why. Is that because you fear to open up, or maybe confront what was bothering you, or maybe come to terms with the fact that there is something that's bothering you, or hampering you mentally, or maybe you do not wish to share such intimate things with a complete stranger? Where do you think this fear arises from of seeing a therapist?
I think it's all of the factors that you mentioned and more. Starting from the stigma that we have, and it's with having something as a taboo, is that you pass it on to your people as well. So if my parents think that seeing a mental health is not something that I should be doing, I will take on to that schema, that kind of thinking, and carry it along with me unless I make a conscious effort to change it, to understand what it is. So I think this is the case with most people who are unable to accept the fact that they need to see a therapist if they're facing so and so situation. It is the fear of having to open up to someone who's a stranger practically, right? Because physical health may they're just seeing your body part, which is almost exposed. But with mental health issues, you fear seeing parts of yourself that you're not aware of, and you fear the other person seeing parts of yourself that you don't want to know about. Even when I had to analyze my handwriting for the first time when I was learning, I delayed on it a lot, but it was very unconscious. It was not conscious. And then I came to realize it's because I do not wish to see myself. It's almost like a reflection of yourself in your handwriting. So it is that fear. And the bad thing, the unfortunate thing is that this thinking prevails not just in some sect of the society, but even in the sects who are educated per se, because that taboo is so big, it's so huge that it has transcended those barriers as well. It's through and through. People think they only need to see a mental health professional when they're in utter misery, or if they are mad in
Yeah.
that situation. But that's not the case. You would see a doctor अगर आपका जुकाम नहीं ठीक हो रहा है या आपको एलर्जी हो गई है जिससे आपको नहीं पता कैसे डील करना है. So even with your mental health, when you're in a position where you're not able to navigate through life, uh, in things as little as not being able to get out of bed, or not having the motivation to go to your workplace, it's in these little things. So you need to know that अगर ऐसे भी affect हो रहा है, I can see a mental health professional and they'll be able to help me through it. Therapy is a long process because it's not physical health की दवाई दे दी ठीक हो गया. We need to get to your roots. That's why it takes a little long, and I think that's also what stops people from going, because they're like, oh, we'll have to go back to it again and again, which is again a scary process.
Right, that's so correct that we almost land on their doorstep until we're in complete misery, or it's something that might be irreversible in some cases. But we do not wait in physical conditions. Like I'm just starting to develop a cold, and I might just deter from seeing a doctor. I don't do that. I immediately go because I know the sooner I go, the sooner I'll be treated. So that applies to mental health as well. So all my audience, please understand that if you're facing any of these things that Ishmeet here told you, please identify, acknowledge, and see a therapist as soon as possible, because that's something that might prevent you from something that's irrevocable, or you know to an extreme where you might find yourself in a place where it's too hard to go back and revisit your past. So please understand that it's very important that we acknowledge it and immediately take that step. You do not have to wait to and some people try to analyze it on their own. They'll think that, okay, let's start from tomorrow, I'll do this and I'll be better. Okay, I'll start with this and I'll do all the positive things and then I'll be better. Oh yes, that's a good way, but that will only aid your actual seeing of the therapist, because it's like not going to the doctor and taking the medicines on your own. So they might help and they might not help. So you please see a doctor and then take the medicines. So it's something like that. That's so true. And Apart from that, can you, Ishmi, tell us that what exactly a session with a therapist looks like? I mean, if somebody does go to a therapist, and I want you to tell them that it's not this big deal and not something to be scared of, because it happens, one step at a time, and they, I mean, it's not like a pressure that you once go to the therapist and you have to tell everything that happened, in 10 years of your past immediately. It doesn't happen like that. So, what should be expected from a visit to a therapist?
Yes, this is, I think, a very scary process for everyone. So it's better to know what you can expect after going to your first session. So in the first session, like the if you visit a doctor, what do they ask you? Acha hua kya? Acha kaise hua? Okay, are these symptoms showing? But with a therapist, we'll want to know, okay, what are your goals? What made you come to the therapist in the first place? Because we want to set clinical goals from the first session onwards. It might take first two sessions, but the ultimate aim is to set goals and achieve them through the therapy process. So, in the first session, they'll know a little bit about you, a little introduction. We'll see what are the problems that you are facing. And even if there aren't any, you just felt like taking therapy, that's all right too. You just need to be very honest with yourself and with the therapist. uh, then, so why we eventually end up discussing all about our life or the big events in our life is because we need to pinpoint where the current trouble that we are here to help or find a solution to might be rooting from. It's not always very direct. I mean, if I am having troubles in with my partner, for example, agar that is one connection that is being affected, it might not always be because I have problems with them directly, but it might be linked to my attachment styles or things that I was expecting from them because of XYZ experiences that I had prior in my life. So it's not always direct. It might also be that I am projecting stress from work or stress from some other professional setup and projecting it here because it's easier for me. So, this is how things manifest, and this is what I also meant in identifying what your behavior or what your stresses are manifesting as in your behavior, because it's in very different forms. That's why the therapist will speak about the problems, your experiences, a little bit about that, and eventually through the sessions, we'll be setting goals, actually listing goals that we want to work on, see progress. They will probably give you some homework as well because you'll need to put effort, right? If there's no medicine, there's effort from you that you need to change. So you will have to practice that homework, which you will be practicing through the weeks and see how it is bettering you or not bettering you. And so we will switch to other techniques and methods, only to eventually be help you get through the problems that you were facing.
Right. So that is so wonderful, Ishmi, to tell us all the ABC of seeing a therapist, of identifying, of acknowledging the fact that you need to see a therapist. So let's normalize seeing a therapist because it's as normal as seeing a physician, a doctor for your flu or anything. So it's as normal as that. And with the world talking so much about mental health, please take help of therapists. It's no big deal, and maybe just for the sake of feeling better and becoming more positive, and maybe there are certain things that bother you, keep bothering you, deter you from growing, progressing. What's the harm if you see a therapist and you suddenly see that change, that swift jump in your life that you were missing? So I would say that that's so insightful, and thank you, Ishmeet, for sharing all of that. Uh, Also, I was telling you that Ishmeet is a handwriting analyst. So first of all, Ishmeet, please do tell us what a handwriting analyst is.
Handwriting analysis is basically one part of the study, graphology. Like psychology, graphology is the study of handwriting. It roots from Europe, but it has found its way through the West and to India as well. which in handwriting analysis, we basically try to see reflections of your traits, your personality, your mental health in your handwriting. If you see it through this lens, your brain and your nervous system is connected, right? And your nervous system directs your muscles and therefore your hands, right? We have been writing all since our childhood, right? We've been taught to write this way and that way. So, in a way, what is in our brain manifests itself on paper directly, right? So, in little strokes and in little pressures and slants, we see reflections of our traits through handwriting. So, in handwriting analysis, we basically take the sample of the person, handwriting sample of the person, which is 1 page of a write up or 2 pages of a write up, the more the better, of course. And we try to identify these strokes, the patterns that form in that handwriting, and those that are consistent will tell us this is the nature or the personality of the person. The interesting thing about handwriting analysis is that handwriting changes over time because your personality is not consistent. It is dynamic. So even though एक nature बरकरार रहता है because you know this person okay they're a very jolly person or this person always stays stressed. It forms a part of our nature, but traits keep changing. The intensity of them keep changing, and that reflects on handwriting. If you look at your handwriting 5 years before, and if you evaluate your handwriting 5 years from now, there will be a change in these three samples.
Thanks for that info because I kept wondering why my handwriting keeps changing every day because when I look back at my texts about 3, 4 years back and now it's become so worse. So maybe I'm becoming a worse person. So yes, I noticed handwritings do change, and like my handwriting has changed so much when I was back in school, but when I see my daughter, I can see her handwriting exactly the same it was when I was in school. So that's so typical, my daughter having the same handwriting, and I, as a person, can completely identify because I've seen all my notebooks throughout my school, right? I used to write like that. But now, when I try and write, I cannot write like that because it's completely changed. Yes, you're right, the basic formation of the letters might not have changed, but there's a pattern, there's a difference. I mean, the spacings, the tails of the letters. I mean, I've just dropped them, or I don't know, just so many things I have changed. So, what exactly does it show if you're, I mean, are there any broader classifications to show, like if somebody is using very wide spaces between their letters, or somebody who's writing very, microscopic, or I mean, is there any some markers about it that we can know?
So, yes, as you mentioned, spacing is usually related to the space that you keep with other people in your life. So, with your friends or with strangers. So, if it has increased, it will probably mean that you like to keep your space. Or if it's narrower, the spacing between words and letters, it's probably that you are trying to stay more social that way. Also, as you mentioned, your daughter's handwritings are much similar to what yours were in school. See, handwriting is also impacted by how we are taught it in school, right? The letters, formations, for dotted patterns that are given to us in the notebooks that we just draw over, all of that guides our handwriting. But yes, as we grow up, we form our own personality. And that is what also guides how we form our letters.
Right, right. That's so interesting. Um, Ishnik, you sure have given me this new interest of studying handwriting because it seems so wonderful, and I think this is something that's very interesting and people could pursue as a career, no? So, what else would you like to tell us about? I mean, how do these people, handwriting analysts, help people? I mean, like
Yes.
psychology helps you identify your mental issues. How does the handwriting help in the people?
One major goal of handwriting analysis or getting your handwriting analyzed is for more self-awareness, for knowing how I would be reacting in particular situations or what tendencies I have, right? So sometimes it is not very easy for people to identify it themselves because we're not always consciously thinking of the action that we'll be doing. and so people don't observe it a lot. So if you want to be more self-aware, handwriting and getting a handwriting analysis done for that period of time is great. You can also get it done after 1 year or 2 years so that you can see the change in yourself. But apart from that, it's just basically getting to know your personality, right? Your behavioral and your social tendencies. Handwriting analysis is actually also used in forensic science because in analyzing suicide notes or in analyzing any notes or specimens that we might find from crime scenes, that is what handwriting analysis helps in. Apart from that, we also analyze handwriting to know our emotional tendencies. I also do emotional intelligence analysis. So, knowing your emotional resources and how well you will be in the face of pressures and stressors is also where you might be able to use handwriting analysis. But another interesting aspect of it is in jobs. Say, I am currently pursuing XYZ career, but I'm thinking of a shift in this career. Get a handwriting analysis done and know if your personality is suited for the other career change option well or not. Because it would play a role in how you're able to build your business or and your professional CV and your resume, right? So that is also a good way of getting it done.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that great because that's something very useful for the you said forensics and plus a switch in the career and a lot of more things. So it's not only about just handwriting and your personality, but much more than that. That was very deep. That was very interesting also, and I loved talking to you, Ishmeet. That was so wonderful. Thank you so much for sparing time and coming out here and enlightening us with so many aspects of life. So I hope my audience today is taking home with them this assurance that seeing a therapist is completely normal. You can just go about waltzing into a therapist's office and do not worry about anything because it's for your own good. And also, being a handwriting analyst is something new I've learned today, and there are so many profits of it. So if you are considering anything, I would definitely recommend handwriting analysis as one thing. So thank you, Ishmeet, for being here. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
All right, bye bye, audience. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.